I'm your host, Jessica Shockley, and this is the Bold Foundations Podcast. The information shared in this podcast, Bold Foundations, is for informational and inspirational purposes only. While we discuss strategies for shifting your mindset to cultivate a more positive and fulfilling life, this podcast is not a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, or therapeutic advice. If you have specific mental health concerns or medical conditions, we encourage you to seek guidance from a qualified healthcare professional. Everyone's journey is unique, and professional support can provide personalized assistance tailored to your needs. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that myself, the host, and any guests on future or past episodes are sharing personal insights and general information, not medical or psychological advice. Always prioritize your well-being and consult a professional when necessary. Ouch! Don't let your insurance company add to the pain in your neck. It's time to lawyer up with Shockley Polino Personal Injury Attorneys. Store 727-498-8771 in your phone now. That's 727-498-8771. Offices St. Petersburg, Clearwater. Hi, everyone. It's been a long time. The Bold Foundations podcast took a long pause. After part 1 of Lauren's story was released, she suffered an unimaginable health crisis. And I just didn't feel right about releasing her second part while all of this was happening. To give you a little bit more idea of what occurred, Lauren was preparing for a sourdough bread making class she was offering in her home when suddenly she collapsed due to cardiac arrest. Thankfully, friends just so have happened to have arrived early for the class and were able to contact paramedics who reached her quickly. Despite this quick response, Lauren's condition was serious. She was put on a life-saving ventilator and was placed in the ICU. She ended up requiring surgery during her hospital stay, but I'm happy to share she is now home recovering. There are a lot of life adjustments that are being made to help Lauren's health, including giving up her job of caretaking for babies and toddlers in her home. I ask, if you can, please help Lauren, her husband, and children by donating to their GoFundMe page as they navigate this sudden, unexpected change. I'll place the link below for you to reach her. As for part 2, I am now proud to share the remainder of her recorded story. Listen in to hear about understanding that everyone is walking through something. No one is perfect. Embracing life's challenges as powerful lessons. It's my life, and I'm going to take control. Worrying about what others will think will only hold you back. Searching for your people and place versus being confident in just who you are. The importance of letting your kids see that you make mistakes and it's okay. And by you, I mean you, not them. Breaking generational cycles with allowing open communication. You can judge me from my past, but that's not who I am. When and how to let people fall. Addiction equals avoidance. How healthy habits can turn into unhealthy obsessions. Confidence is beautiful, and more. Lauren's story isn't done. She is clearly a fighter, a survivor. I cannot wait to see all of the mountains she will continue to climb.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to the teen girls that I was working with, a lot of times I remember the one girl, she was I want to say she was like one of the head cheerleaders at one of the local high schools. And I was always surprised because a lot of the girls that I saw were the ones that you could tell they were struggling, and this girl kept coming and I asked her, I said, why are you here, girl? Like, what's going on? What can I help you with? And she looked at me and she goes, I just feel like I'm graduating and I have no idea who I am.
Hmm.
And she goes, and I sat down, I talked to her, and she's like, I have friends. I have the greatest boyfriend. I have this, but I'm getting ready to walk out of here. And I'm wondering if any of these key opponents are going to stay. I have no idea who I am because I was a cheerleader and I'm not doing cheer in college. I lived basically my whole life, she felt like in high school, as a total different person than who she was at home. And she portrayed this whole life. And I understood it completely. She goes, this is how I had to dress. This is how I had to do my makeup, how I did my hair. I was never able to just, what'd she say? She said, sometimes I just want to put on a black shirt and black pants and listen to rock music. I was like, well, then go listen to the rock music, girl.
Did she share where that came from? Did that come from friend influence or parents?
She's, it sounded more, honestly, it sounded more like she had influence from all ends. She had parents who were very active in different things in the district, stuff like that. Like she always had to feel like she had to be perfect. But she also felt like she had to be perfect for not just them, but for everyone. And I looked at her and I'm like, man, like you were the girl that I would have liked to been in high school. I was more the rowdy one. Like I said, I knew everybody. But I wasn't going to be fitted for prom queen anytime soon. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, wow, it's so funny that you're talking to me. She goes, I just want to, she goes, I like coming because I'm starting to realize a little bit of pieces about who I am listening to you. And I could, it shocked me. It's like, hmm. But she
And
said,
that's
sorry.
what's so cool about hearing stories is because more and more people can start to realize that everyone is
Hmm.
walking through something, and some people are more open about it, and some people will just shove it down. But the reality is, we all are trying to figure our stuff out, and
Right.
things have happened that we either realize or maybe we haven't even realized it yet. Those
Yeah.
perfect people are not, no one is perfect.
Right. Everyone's come into this world if they somehow, some way. And I like to believe that you do pick your parents. Um, and I feel like I picked mine pretty good. There was some lessons that I needed to learn through that. But I feel like if I wouldn't have picked the parents I had and didn't go through what I went through at such a young age, I might be 50, 60 years old and be a hot mess person. And I wouldn't be able to have what I have today, which is a beautiful family and the confidence and the just, I can tell right now that I am spiritually growing because of things that I've been wanting for women is slowly coming in, like kind of like how your podcast popped up and stuff like that. And I'm like, the world is working with me. It's just getting to that next step.
Yeah. It's a powerful shift when you can sit instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Ask yourself, what is this doing for me?
Right. Yes. And I always use the thing like, I remember Bon Jovi, It's My Life song. And I still listen to that song because that song hit home. And not because it's my life. It used to hit home as like a teenager, like, it's my life. I'm going to do what I want. But as an adult, I look at it and I'm like, it's my life and I'm going to take control.
Mhm.
I take into control. I took all those labels and all the things that have happened to me, and I have been able to make the positive come out of it. So I constantly in my head have, I swear, it's my life playing on repeat, especially when things get tough, because it's truly, it is, it's my life. And I look at it in a way of, I'm trying to think of a way I can say it is you don't have to be hard on yourself. It's easy for us to look in the mirror and not like certain things. But then those certain things, when you look in the mirror, are you really worried about your weight or is there stuff on the inside that's going on? There's a lot of things that are going in towards why you don't like yourself at that moment. And think sometimes, like I remember being at a gym and I'm beside this girl, and I'm not thick girl, but I say I'm thick. I had some meat to me, I guess we'll say. And this girl's just running on the treadmill, and I'm like, how does she do this? She's so thin, so beautiful. What is happening here? At this point, I'm confident in who I am, and I'm just like, no, we're just going to do level two. And I'm like, you know what? Why am I worried about it? She doesn't know me. Nobody in this gym knows me. And that's when I realized, and I'm not going to say I'm a firm believer of God, but there are little pieces of me that say it. But I'm like, there is a point where you look at yourself and you're like, the only person that matters is me. It doesn't matter about the girl at the gym or the people at the grocery store. I can go out looking like nothing and not do my makeup or my hair because I know exactly who I am. I'm not worried about what everyone else is thinking or what's in other people's, who has more money or they got this bag or they got that. And when you can start getting rid of those little things in your head, it's almost like your confidence boost because it's my relationship and God's. It's not my kids, it's not my husband's, it's me. And that's where the growing begins.
And how freeing to be able to live that way too. I mean, you're just holding yourself back when you're wasting time worrying about what other people think.
Right. And it's dragging, like you don't realize it, but it is. It's dragging and exhausting. It's almost like everyone kind of, when they're trying to find themselves, they're almost like chameleons and they're trying to find their people. But I've realized growing and spiritually growing that it's more of finding your people that just accept you for who you are, not trying to fit in as much as like you did as a teenager, like, oh, I got to fit in. I got to make sure I'm listening to this music so I know what they're talking about or wearing certain clothes.
It's hard because as children, we grow up in this place where we're all together as a community all the time. We're all the same age, we're all in the same classroom, we're all in the same sport. And when that all falls away when you're an adult, I think a lot of people are still searching for that sense of community. But like you said, the reality is if you are just who you are to your core, the people that are meant to be in your life will be drawn to you.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's a lot to be said. It's the more you can figure out who you are, the better person you're going to be. I've talked to a lot of people in my life, and people, like I said, people come up to me and tell me their stories. And some of them are addicts, and some of them have gone through alcoholism and all sorts of different stories. But in the end, we're all the same. We've all had something that, like that apple core, that has damaged us. And it's just overcoming those. And you have to accept them. You can't just push them back and be like, oh, that's my past. I'm over it. I'm done. You literally have to go back and say, I forgive you at that time. This is okay. It sucks what happened to you, but I'm going to be okay. And once you can say that, I forgive that time I picked up that drink or I picked up that drug or I I don't know what else, but
Or just wasn't my best self.
right. Yeah. Once you can say, I forgive you, because that's one thing I tell myself all the time. You know what? I screwed up. I forgive you. It's okay. Because you have to be the one to be passionate to yourself. No one else is. Not the
And I
way
will
that,
say, going back to, your work with teenagers or even, myself listening to your story as a parent, how important that is to show your kids that you make mistakes and you can forgive yourself.
yes. And I tell my kids all the time, like, when I make a mistake, I'm like, look, I'm sorry. I screwed up, and there's times like one of them will say, well, your mom, I don't wear a cape, like, I'm sorry. I'm a mom. Being a mom is a great superpower, but I don't have a cape. I can't do magic. I can't, I'm just me. And I'm going to make mistakes. And I'm going to say, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. And this is where I need you right now to forgive me. And I teach them that because I feel like teaching them how to forgive is a big component because I would shun people out for years. It's like, I'm not forgiving them. I'm done. I just wipe people out, which wasn't fair to them or me.
How do you establish when it's okay to cut someone out or it's just a healthy boundary for you?
I go by the number three. You know, I have been able to set my boundaries up, and being this type of person I am in today's community, like I said, I'll meet people the first time and I get their whole life story and I'm like, oh my Lanta. Like, and I kind of put my wall up a little bit and I always tell people, you are always welcome, but I need to see consistency. You know, if you're not consistent with me, I can't be consistent with you. And that just means I'm not ready for you to be in my life and I need to protect me. And I've said that to people. I need to protect me. And it's not bad of who they are. It's just you have to set a boundary. I've learned that even it can be family members that you just are like, do you invite them because you have to, you know? But if it's really not good for your mental health and that you feel like this is damaging, I'm sorry. I know you're my brother or sister, but I can't have you in my life right now. And I've had people do that to me. The sister that I said about who was basically a mom to me, I watched most of my siblings take away I call them my cousins, away from me for a long time in my teens. We don't want you near her. My own family. And I remember stopping at my sister's house and I'm like, look, I'm in this car she was drinking and driving. I just wanted to get out. I knew you lived close here, blah, blah, blah. And I remember my brother-in-law just going off. And I was like, okay, I'm not wanted here. And I knew that. And I knew why, but it hurt. And I think hearing him was another wake up call because it was almost like, wow, my whole family doesn't want me around. They don't trust me. They don't love me. That was the same brother in law that 2 days ago is like, Lauren, I'm proud of you. You've rocked it. Like you've come a long way, you know, and I needed that hard time. I needed people to say, nope, sorry, you're not allowed here. We're afraid you might steal from us. We're afraid you're going to lie to us. And it's funny because when I mentioned about the stealing, I stole my sister's clothes the one time and it was almost it was a riot because she's like a 00. I could never fit in her clothes. But I stole them because I got to a point in my life, and I find the reason I'm telling you this because I find it kind of interesting is I stole her clothes because not that I could fit into them, not that I could wear them, but I started collecting things of people that meant something to me because I wasn't sure if I was always going to be in their life.
Oh, wow.
So I started hoarding these almost like a shrine type thing. It sounds crazy to
No,
me.
it's not crazy. I mean, I think that, you've gone through some serious abandonment, not just with your mother, but even family saying, I don't like your behavior, we're not going to be around. So,
Right. So I started just collecting pieces, knowing I love these people. They might not
yeah.
love me. And they always loved me, but I felt like that hard time that I was like the black sheep. So I took my grandmother's ring. I took I took my sister's whole outfit. Um, and it was, like I said, it was just kind of collecting people who meant something to me.
And in that
And
moment, from an outsider looking in, they may say, oh, she's stealing, she's a thief. But for
right.
you, being on the other end of it, what do you think that you needed in that moment in time instead?
I think honestly, I needed someone to tell me I was going to be okay. At that point, I was so numb. I didn't cry. I had no feelings. And I needed someone almost to make me cry and say, I got you. Um, I wanted to be able to talk to my parents a lot, and I didn't because I felt like I'd be judged. Or my mother was one who used my siblings also to try to help me. So I would walk in my mom's rooms. And I remember seeing these books, and it was like my bipolar daughter or my borderline personality daughter, and all these different things. And I'm like, why do I have all these labels? Why am I this? Why? What did I do wrong? I have a learning disability. I'm the worst typer in the world. Anyone that follows me on Facebook or text message me knows I cannot spell or punctuate whatever. And I'm okay with it. I've tried, but I'm also okay with it because it's a part of me. It's, but it comes down to it. Nobody would actually say, like, hey, good night. I love you. Let's try
Mm.
better tomorrow. It was literally, I went to bed the next day, you still felt that in that house. And you felt that for a while till it was good. And then, even at a young age, I couldn't sit through church and be quiet and I'd be moving. And I did have ADHD. But where ADHD, I love how they treat ADHD kids now. Have a fidget. I'm like, I would have loved to have a fidget. I was always like, I had to sit still and not be able to fidget in church and at school. And then if you did, you got in trouble. And then I felt like I kept feeling like I failed. And every time I failed, nobody said, it's okay, you can still climb back up. They almost just left me there. And I don't think it was purposely done. It's like I said, they didn't really have those tools. And then as I got older, I started asking the questions and I started talking. And that's when they started opening up more. And once I started understanding the way they were raised, um, I started realizing they weren't given the tools to do this. They weren't taught these certain things. I had to teach myself. And I think because they didn't do certain things, I was able to teach myself.
Which is really cool that you've broken this sort of generational trauma and cycle by asking them questions, opening the door for communication, but now you're applying these tools that you've learned in your own parenting to your children. And to
Right.
be able to give them that gift of open communication is going to give them such a leg up.
Yes. Yeah. And that's my biggest thing. Because when I had children, I was like, what do they need from me? Yeah, they need a mom, but they need a support system. And yeah, mom can be both, but you got to make sure when to make that just a support system and keep your mom emotions out of it, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, parenting is hard. There's so many people who have opinions on the right or wrong way to do things, or, possible judgment from the outside of how you're parenting your children, and you have to make sure that your children are safe and you tell them what to do. But I think it can be easy for a lot of people, myself included at times, to go back to what you're saying. What do they need right now? What do
Right.
they need?
Yeah, because what we are here for is to give them their tools.
Hmm.
We are now the ones passing our tools to them. And I notice a lot of times it's hard when you're like my daughter did competitive cheer, and I'm looking at all these competitive cheer moms, and I'm like, I am not these. Nope, this is not my cup of tea. Nothing against them. They were wonderful people. They're dressed to a T, and I'm here with my sweatshirt on backward and my hair. And I'm like, sorry, hot mess mom over here. Like, this is not, I played soccer, I did a little bit of rugby, but this is a whole nother level. And I remember sitting there thinking, and I'm like, this is really interesting. Like, why am I here? Why am I with these people? And then I realized, like, I made friends out of it. And we still talk, but it's like, I think when you hear how everyone's parenting their own children, I think you know what's best for your child. Um, and that's what gets me when people think they have the right to say about how something should be done in parenting. You might not be going through what they're going through with their child. I have a son who has anxiety severely. Like every day for the past couple of years has been a struggle with him. Like he'd get in the car and he'd have an anxiety attack because he's afraid someone's going to die. And then I have one that's a complete we call her our wild child. She is such a free spirit. I love watching it on her. She is who she is. And that's what I tell her. I said, don't ever lose that free spirit. But then I look at parents who have autistic children who color on the walls and put stickers on the walls or stickers on things. And you know what? Honestly, it's okay. Nobody should be judging anybody. And that's where, again, when I say women need to come together and just listen to everyone's stories and be like, you know what? Let's get these stereotypical things out of our head that we were taught. Because if we got everything out of our heads, we would just love people. It doesn't matter what their home looks like or whatnot, as long as that kid is loved and cared for, and you'll know. It's simple. And kids, they're the ones that need it the most. It's one thing to be a broken adult. It's another thing to be a broken kid, because when you're a broken kid, you're going to live with that. And that most of the time you end up being a broken adult.
And that can start, with the parent. You kind of
Mhm.
have to work through that yourself to be able to guide your kids to have that type of confidence. You had mentioned something that I would love to unpack a little bit because I can resonate with it, that confidence or lack of confidence when you're around other parents. Because I consider myself a very confident person as well, but I do find myself questioning myself when I'm around other parents because you start thinking, oh, well, that person's more put together than me, or, gosh, I forgot to do X, Y, and Z for the PTA or whatever it is. So it sounds like you've had similar experiences in those situations as well.
Yes, I actually, a lot of times when I go into places, I get a lot of strange looks. And I'm like, man, am I okay? Like, is there something written all over me? And it took me a while to be like, no, my labels that I grew up with are not all over my face. Because that's what I used to think. I'm like, oh, here comes this, whatever. But honestly, when you go into a group of women, they're all feeling the same way. So the looks you're getting are looks of, can I be comfortable with them? Or do I need to try to better myself for that person? Do I want to be friends with that person? And sometimes it is about, oh, I heard this about that person. I have a lot of times where people come up to me and they're like, I heard about this. Like when you were, I said, yeah, good thing that's my past. That's not who I am now, honey.
Oh, I love that response.
I'm like, I am who I am. And I say that you can judge me from my past, but that's not who I am. And I've had that happen a couple of times, especially living so close to where I graduated from. Because I graduated from Redland. I live in Cedar Cliff area now. A little bit of a traitor, I guess, but
Hey, I was Colts, go Colts.
so it's knowing that people still live around here and you run into people. I constantly, sometimes I run into people and I'm like, they'll be like, do I know you from high school? And I'm like, I'm sorry if I did anything to you. Like, that's my first response because I'm like, I'm not that person. Like, oh no, I always thought you were wonderful. And I'm like, good, glad you were on that side. But I've also run into people and they're like, yeah, you hurt me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I was in a bad place and I tell them that. Like I was not a good person in high school. I wanted to be liked, I wanted all this stuff, but at the same time, I was fighting such an inner battle that was taking over. But I think it's when as you get older and you're with other women, I think when you walk into a room, and I've learned to just walk in the room and I just smile at everyone so that way they can feel like they've broken down a little bit. And I will go over and talk to the one that I feel the most uncomfortable to, because if I'm feeling their uncomfortability come to me, that means they're uncomfortable with me. So I always go to them first. Be like, hey, I'm so and so. How are you? And just kind of start that communication that way. Like I said, I've run into women who are confident and very loud. They always end up being Italians. They're so loud. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're shutting me down. Like, I love you. I love your personality. But I'm like, whoa. Everyone has a different level of it. And I think mine is just kind of like, I just like to keep peace. I always say I'm kind of like the Bob Marley, or was made at the wrong time, because I do truly love every human being for who they are. I don't care how broken you are. As long as you don't do wrong to me or my family, I personally don't have a problem with it.
I love that you said that you purposely go say hello to the person that looks the most uncomfortable.
Yes.
I mean, what a great way to just pull the room together if everyone did that.
Yeah, and I think it's almost getting out of your feels when you do
Yeah.
that. You have to go over to that person. And I don't know if it's because I don't want to say they're scaring you, but they might be a little intimidated by you, or maybe they're scared to be there. They have their own little ghost in their closet that they don't want to let out, or they're fighting something once, so they kind of look kind of like standing there and kind of stand in office. But in reality, there's something going on. So the more you can communicate with someone and the more that you're willing to open up to someone, the more they're going to open up to you. And they're some of the greatest people. It's just kind of opening and aligning that with people.
And that goes back, I mean, to me, listening to your story, that goes back. You are giving so much love and understanding and openness to people because it sounded like that was something you really craved as a child.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I
And
think that
that's
it's so important for people to know that no matter how hard the thing was that you went through, how much you can shift that into such a powerful tool to give others.
right. And I think the biggest thing is don't regret what you did. You did it and it's okay. Here you are, you're living it. Okay. You're overcoming that obstacle, but don't regret it because that taught you something. You might have had to fall. And I always say, I had to fall. I had to fall flat on my face to realize I don't want to be here. And it's okay. A lot of times when I tell people, when I meet people, I tell them, like, especially new people, I have dyslexia. I am an IEP kid. This is who I am. Because if you were going to set up these pedestals for me as a friend, I'm not going to pass them. I barely passed high school. Please don't set me on a pedestal. And that's the biggest thing. People always set people on pedestals. I'm guilty of that before. I don't put people on pedestals anymore. I don't expect people to have this do certain things all the time because we're people. We're going to fail and it's okay. What they need to do is have someone, instead of setting them up on the pedestal, someone holding the pedestal so that they know you have someone's back.
When you recognize that someone needs to fall on their own in order to climb out of it, how do you personally do that? Do you do that in silence or do you offer some sort of communication or
A lot of times when people have talked to me and they say this person, I've tried to, I say, look, you've tried. You can literally say, I gave it my all for this person, and they're still going down that path. You need to let them fall. And at this point, you want to pray. You want to pray that they can make it out of this and that they are strong enough and that you've given them everything they need to get out of it. Because sometimes, unfortunately, in today's world, people don't get out when they fall. Especially the way the addiction is nowadays. I could not imagine. There's many people from Redland that have suffered from the addiction that we've lost in our classes. And it breaks my heart.
yeah, for people listening, maybe even outside of the area that I grew up with Elsie in, the opioid addiction has really taken off over the course of the last, gosh, I mean, maybe 15 years, would you say?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's tough to hear over the years the news of people passing to that. And
right.
I don't really know if that's coming from a place of, doctors misprescribing and then it sort of kicks off from there or how it begins, but it's a big epidemic.
Yes, it's sad. It really is. And unfortunately, in our area, there's not a lot to do for teens. Um, I remember being a teen, I'm like, what do I do? Go skating? Once you get like to a certain age, you're like, I don't want to go skating at the skating rink. What do we do? We hang out in each other's houses, All you need is that one kid to say, hey, try this. I tried everything. I was like, okay, I'll try this. I'll do this because I didn't care. And thankfully, I never had an addictive personality because I don't think I would have been able to fall and get out of everything. But it's so easily given anymore. And it's really sad. And I remember losing a friend. It's one that hit home. And it wasn't, he had an alcohol issue, but we played soccer together as young kids, like from elementary school. I could walk to his house. I worked with his brother at a small town grocery store. And I remember his younger brother calling me and he's like, I need your help. I need you to come help me with my brother. And I said, okay, where is he? And he's like, he's in this motel room. And I went into this motel room and I was like, I wanted to cry because of what I was seeing. Um, he came home from the army. The army sent him back. This is all during the time with Iraq. They should not have sent him back. He was unwell. He came home again and was very sick from that time. He was huffing paint. He was drinking tremendously. And when I mean drinking, just right from the bottle. I looked at him and I said, what can I do to help you? Let me help you. I am your person. Let me help you. If I got to take you to Texas where there's a thing for the army, I will drive all night. I will figure it out. And my husband was with me because he's like, you're not going to a hotel with a guy at that time by yourself. So he's standing in there too. And my friend looked at me and goes, you can't help me. And I said, why? And he goes, you don't know what I saw over there. And that's when I realized I'm not going to be able to help everyone I meet. I'm not going to be able to help him. And I said, you know what? You're right, but I value you as a person and I'd like you to get the help. And unfortunately, he is one that the next day we got the phone call that he passed away. Um, and that's one that will stick with me for a long time because knowing how he was so valued as a classmate, an older classmate, and was so good and played soccer and ref soccer at the group, to see someone go that way and become that person was not who he was. So, and it was the drugs and the alcohol, but in reality, I couldn't imagine being 18 years old, signing yourself up for an army when me personally, I think that's just too young because not everyone's ready to see what they saw over there. And like he said, you don't know what I saw. You're right, I don't.
I think that there definitely, and there has been over the years more emphasis on the importance of mental health and PTSD, but there can only be more. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
it's so important and what a difficult position to be in, but also to carry the understanding that addiction is a disease
mm-hmm.
and it literally changes your frontal lobe and your
Yes.
cognitive thinking and the choices that you make. Um, it's a hard thing to go through watching somebody go through the addiction.
Yeah, and addiction can run in so many forms. It can
Right.
be something that traumatic, or it can be addiction to coffee. It can be addiction caffeine. It can be addiction to exercising. Um,
Yes.
there's so many different ways where you end up leaving yourself a little bit through those times. I've gone through those times. I remember exercising constantly over and over and over. And I was like, what am I avoiding right now? And when I realized that, I was avoiding the feelings and the process of me growing because it was more of, I want to look like this. I want to be this person. I want to be this. But in reality, it was like, no, I'm avoiding my growth right now. And I'm not able to grow because I'm so focused on these things that I need to have this all the time. And that really wasn't healthy for me at all. So I was eating healthy and, you know, exercising all the time, losing weight, looking good. I was breaking inside because I wasn't healing that part that needed to be healed.
How difficult was that to see that that's viewed as such a healthy thing was actually becoming an issue for you?
That was kind of like a mind game because I was like, if I keep exercising, this is going to help me with my brain. And my husband was like, he exercises a lot. And he's like, no, this is what helps me. This calms me. But that wasn't me. And it was so easy for me to be like, I would post it on social media, like, look what I'm eating, look at my meals, look at this, And I'm like, here I am falling back into that habit of a mask. I'm not cutting myself. I'm not making myself sick after I eat. I'm eating so healthy and trying to be this person on social media. And why? And that was all before I figured out the whole healing thing about 2 years ago, where I'm like, I am doing this because I'm avoiding something. And you don't, when you start realizing what that avoidance is, it hits you. It hits you because you feel like you're doing something healthy that you should be growing.
Yeah. I think that giving yourself the time to have self-reflection is so important because otherwise you could just get caught up on the hamster wheel
Mm-hmm.
of having the shoulds, I should eat healthy, I should exercise, when in reality, maybe you really need to think about your reasoning and your frequency, and there's so
Right.
many things that go into that.
Yeah, it's funny when people come to my house, my husband, it took him a long time to get used to it. He's like, Lauren, why don't we have mirrors? I'm like, I don't like mirrors. And he's like, why? Now we have one in the bathroom, so if he's doing his hair or whatever. But I'm very like, there's not a mirror in my living room, there's not a mirror going down my hallway. And I say, because when people stop to look at themselves in the mirror real quick, they're fixing something about themselves. Where I like to wake up and I don't care what I weigh, because I don't have scales really either. He does, I don't touch it. And I don't need to look at who I am because I know who I am. It's funny, and I just had this conversation last night. I said, what's funny is I said, I know how I look and I'm confident in how I look. And then all of a sudden someone takes a picture of me and gives me a picture, and I'm like, who is that? Like I don't look like that. That's not who I am. And it's like, I'm like, man, if I looked in the mirror all the time, I'd be so picking out little things that I don't need to pick out because I'm beautiful of a person. Why am I going to sit here and nitpick at myself? So yeah, he's like, I'd like to have a couple mirrors in the house. I'm like, well, maybe your gym area. You can have as many as you want there.
It is easy, I think, especially as women. I mean, we're our own worst critic,
Mm-hmm.
and people can get obsessive over things that they want to correct.
Right,
And I think that's really cool that you're like, I don't need to look at myself because I know who I am.
right. I can put on mascara and a little bit of foundation. I'm like, I'm good. I don't. I can't tell you the last time I really. Maybe when I brush my teeth, I look in the mirror quick just to make sure there's nothing in my teeth. But I don't really look in the mirror.
Yeah. I do well, I don't know. I mean, at home, if I'm going to the grocery store, I mean, I'll go to Starbucks drive-through or car line every morning in my pajamas. Like, I don't care.
Right,
But if I'm going to be going out to dinner or going out with friends or something like that, I'll put effort in, but I do it more so as like a form of expression because I think that it's fun, and
right.
putting
Yes,
together an outfit is almost like an art form for me. I get a kick out of it. But there is also a level that I need to check myself where I can be very overly critical and I can
right,
spend too much time thinking, oh, I wish this looked like that or this looked like this. So it's a
right.
balance.
And we live in a world where it's been like that. We grew up in looking, I remember looking at magazines and I'm like, I want to look like this girl. My bones are big. I was never going to look like that girl, and I remember thinking, and I think that's where some of the eating disorders came from. Because I'd see these like girls in the magazines that I would get, and I'm like, gosh, like, how do they do that? I play soccer. I don't have like an 8 pack. Like, I could sit here and work out, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, you'll just lose it. No, no, I have to work really hard. And then I kind of get a thing with this like Ozempic thing out there, and I'm like, yeah, I could do that, but I feel like that's not going to be me, And I see all some of my friends doing, it, and I'm like, wow, that's really great. They look amazing. But then I'm like, I don't think I could personally mentally. be okay with me doing that because that's not who I am. I feel like I am me. My body to me is where I raised like I raised my children before they came out. I nourish my body like that is my temple. I'm not going to change my temple just because of society. That's just my way of thinking. I know many, like I said, many of my friends are doing it, and I think they look absolutely stunning. And I understand that side of you where you look in the mirror and you're just not happy with yourself. But at the same time, just because I look like this on the outside, my inside's actually really cooler. And that's how I kind of take it. Like, you don't need to know me on the outside because that's not me. That's just my skin. That's just my body.
Well, and I'm a firm believer that confidence is such a beautiful thing because you can be what society thinks is pretty on the outside, but be so deeply insecure.
Mm-hmm.
And that can come across to other people where they might think you're standoffish. They're immediately judging you that way. And what a terrible way to live. Or you started this podcast. Who are you? I'm a confident woman. I mean, that is such a beautiful thing. And when you put out that beautiful confidence, that's what comes back to you. And that is the best way to live.
Right. You'll realize when you become that person, being a confident woman, my friends are confident. The people I'm around are confident. Um, and it is hard when you find someone that comes into your circle and they're not as confident because you don't want to. I say to my neighbor a lot because she is the sweetest person ever and she's young. And I said, if I'm a lot, tell me because I can be a lot for people. And I'm okay with that. I said, tell me. I said, I'm loud, I'm a lot. We're living beside each other because we just moved in this year. And she is the most soft spoken girl. And I'm like, you went in beside the wrong neighbor.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I feel like she's here so that I can also help her, that she can see someone who's confident and be able to learn that. Because I find in this world, you have to be confident. You don't have to be a strong woman. You just have confidence, love yourself. I started out with being confident as the first thing to say because you can have all these different things going on in your life, almost like a spider web. But if you don't love yourself and aren't confident, those other things aren't going to survive. And that's where it comes back to being you. So to be a good mom and to be a good wife and to be the chicken keeper and plant person enthusiast that I am, I had to become the person I wanted to be so that I could be amazing for all of those things around me. And I think that's where it really hits home with people. And my heart feels for people that don't have that confidence. And I've run into people like I have a friend who she's like, she has a hard time just being intimate with her husband um, because she doesn't like who she is on the outside. I'm like, girl, you got to learn to love that body. Like I said, strip it down one day, dance by yourself in that house and learn to love that body because that body was given to you. You made that body, you made every piece of who you are, you know, because I couldn't imagine struggling like that. And my husband would be the first to tell you, I'm always like, here I am, ready or not, like that's just how I am. Like, so
Do you, I mean, I know you could say to someone, you just need to love yourself, but that definitely can be easier said than done for some
mhm.
people. Can you speak to where you got your confidence from or how you would help share that to others?
I had went down a path where someone said to me, um, you need to find little Lauren. And I talk about little Lauren a lot, almost like a second person, almost like a kind of like a different personality. But little Lauren was the one that was happy and true to herself. And when I started going back that whole thing during the Reiki session, and I found little Lauren just peeking behind in the blonde curls, and I was like, I want to be that girl. before I was injured. And it was, how can I do that? So when I found her, her and I spent a lot of time together. And I literally went through like thinking of different things that happened of her and how happy she was. And I realized she wasn't judged. She wasn't anything, she just was an innocent kid. But bringing that into now and trying to love yourself, if I loved myself at that age, before I even knew who I was, why can't I love myself now? And that's where I said before, let your past be part of you. Everyone says, forget your past. Your past is in the past. No, your past is with you. It's always going to be with you. It's what you do with it and how you grow with it. It's just kind of like at that seedling part for me. Um, but yeah, I think it's more of just how you learn to love yourself. And literally, it took me, I think, for 3 years as a teenager, I'd look in the mirror and I would cry when I do it. But I was like, I love that I have a big heart. I love that I care about people. I love, and it wasn't the stuff on the outside, it was everything inside that I was able to say. And I would say different things every time I looked in my bathroom mirror. And I do think there are some things about the therapies out there today with saying there's constant positive things about you to teaching yourself how to love yourself. Yeah, you went through some stuff. It's okay. But now let's repair that with you. And there's I don't know if you know, but in China they'll see like a broken cup. I think it's China or Japan. I can't remember which one it is now. And when they see that broken cup, they paint that broken piece with gold. And I think there's something to be said about that. Because just because we're broken doesn't mean we can't repair ourselves. And to repair yourself with gold makes it even more, in a way, magical. So don't look at it as a break, but look at it as like a new cup with some gold and glitter and glamour on it type deal.
What beautiful advice. I just think that's so special to say, if you're lacking confidence, really look back to your younger self and celebrate, decorate those cracks because that strength to even just get through those things.
Right. You have to heal from the past. That's the thing. And a lot of people don't want to go back there. I didn't. Um, like I said, I was an active cutter. I still have scars on my arm. When I met my husband and he asked about them in high school, I was like, I cut. That's a part of me. It's a part of me that I'm gonna have to live with forever. Um, and he's like, did you want to kill yourself? No. No, I was so angry that I didn't know how to express it. And this sounds really bad for some people, but when I did it, it was to see the blood that would relax me because I was like, okay, I now punished myself for what I did, and this is how I can go on. It wasn't because I was suicidal. It wasn't because I was depressed. It was more a way of the way my brain was thinking of how to be able to see what I went through and cope through that. And I look at those now and I think, man, if I could paint them gold, because those are the cracks that I went through, because those are pretty important things. And I have no shame in hiding them. Um, when I was a teenager, I did. It was like, you don't tell anyone, you don't share that story. Like, man, if I could paint every one of those gold, because that's just a part of me. To me, they're beautiful. They're something that I went through personally and had to overcome. And I did it. And that's why they should be painted gold.
I think that you have done a miraculous job of facing so much heartache and tragedy and turning it into such a beautiful thing for yourself and for other people. These girls that you have helped and also just parenting your children is a remarkable thing. And I think your confidence is something that everyone should strive to have.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a It's been a long time, but it feels good to be where I'm at.
Yeah.
And it's definitely worth it.
Well, I think confidence is just a beautiful way to bookend this podcast episode with you starting coming out saying I'm a confident woman and kind
Yeah,
of touching that on the end. I so much appreciate your bravery in telling your story because I think that so much of it will resonate with other people, whether they've lived through these things themselves or if they're parenting children or trying to heal their relationship with themselves or their parents. So thank you so much.
absolutely. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it, and I hope more women that can become more confident, and I hope I can help with that.
I think you will.
Yeah.
Did this episode of Bold Foundations inspire you? Or can you relate? Maybe you have your own story to tell. Whether you want to share with me privately or you would like to be a guest on the podcast, reach out by going to boldfoundations.my.canva.site or follow us on Instagram at bold_foundations. And don't forget to leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks for listening.